Welcome to Running is Bullshit. I'm Amy.
And I'm Stuart, and you're listening to the podcast that loves to hate running. On this episode, we're talking about running on holiday, getting beaten up at football, running on roads that you really shouldn't, burrito nuts. I'm just still doing more races, and Amy is doing... sorry, we're going to have to start this again. There's a mistake here. It says Amy's doing speed sessions.
That's no mistake. That is true.
Whoa!
It's not fake news. It's the truth.
That is an alternative fact right there. Okay, we'll get into that later on. Amy doing speed sessions. Who the hell would have thought? Amy, huge news in running. Massive news. Dominated everything last few weeks. Strava now has dark mode.
I know.
Apparently this is the thing that everyone has wanted for years, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone mention it. But now it's here. Everyone's gone wild. And you know what? I tried it. It's a bit too dark. It's a bit too dark.
I'm a big fan of dark mode. So every app on my phone that can be dark mode is dark mode. All my browser stuff, everything on my computer is dark mode. I don't want Strava dark mode. It looks weird. The maps look weird, which is what I don't like. I'm used to seeing a map with like that white back or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like it's not right. I don't like dark mode either. I haven't turned it off, of course, because I can't be bothered, but I don't like it.
Yeah, same for me. Like all my social media apps, all the main apps I use, all in dark mode. Strava, put it on. It's a bit too dark. Like most of them, they're like a really dark grey. This is just like a black, and black. It's just too much. So apparently, after all this fuss, I don't like it. I've put it back.
That's what I need to do. I need to put it back at some point. I don't spend enough time on Strava to put it back, so yeah, I have to get annoyed every time I open it.
Yeah, but I just find it bizarre that apparently everyone's been begging for this for years, and even Strava have been like, oh, it's finally here. I'm like, mate, it's just changing some of the colours, not hard, is it? Also,
bro, we wanted our timelines to stay chronological, and they changed that back.
That doesn't happen, does it?
No, that was the one thing. Everyone's like, can we please just have the timeline chronological? And,
I tell you what, I can't wait till Strava introduces stories. They'll do it at some point. Everyone else has. At some point, they will do that.
Stay in your lane, Strava. Stay in your lane.
Oh, God, what a terrifying glimpse into the future I've just given myself. Let's have a quick catch-up on the last episode. This is a very quick one, and this is the only real message we had directly relating to the last episode from Andy Palmer, who said, "Hi, just listened to the latest episode. Great stuff."
Oh, thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Mum.
Thank you.
There we go. That's it. That's made our week.
Yeah, we'll carry on now.
Yeah, we will.
We'll carry on making the podcast, because I was a bit, should we? But yeah, thank you.
That has picked us right up. Thank you so much, Andy.
On to the tea update quite quickly.
Ooh.
We've partnered with Bird and Blend, which means we'll tell you what tea we're drinking. And if you like the sound of that, you go to runningsbs.com/tea, click on the links and buy some tea if you want. Stuart, what are you drinking?
I've gone, well, what is for us a little bit old school. I've gone for the Bonfire Toffee. I've just finished off my pack of Bonfire Toffee. It's a black tea. It's smoky and a bit caramelly, and apparently a bit of apple in there. I don't quite get that, but like a caramelly, smoky black tea. It's very nice. Just finishing that off, so I need to probably get some more of that.
Very nice.
It's one of our classic favourites. That's probably one of our top 5 in it.
Oh, definitely. I don't have any at the moment, so I need to buy some myself. But yeah, it's very nice. It's very nice and autumnal. Even when it's not autumn, it just makes you feel cosy. You know.
But it is mid-July and very autumnal, so this is appropriate. What are you into?
So I've had the pumpkin spice tea.
Also going for the autumn.
Yeah,
nice.
well, I asked Freya to make me a tea, and I said, just bring me a surprise. Bring me a surprise loose leaf tea. It's one of my loose leaf teas. Mm-hmm. And firstly, the first time, she brought me something that was in a bag. That's not what I asked for. That's not loose leaf.
No.
So I took the tea. No, I didn't. She brought me something in a bag, which
scolded her half her face.
Like, get it right. No, it was a fruit tea. That, you know, like the free teas they send you with Bird and Blend. Usually, if you order from Bird and Blend, they send you some free teas to try, which are the bagged teas. And I'm not a fan of fruit teas, so I couldn't really. And I felt really bad because she made me this tea, and I was like, oh, thank you. And she's like, is that not the one you want? And I'm like, well, I did ask for loose leaf, but, you know. She's like, well, that is loose leaf. She said, if it wasn't in the bag, it would be loose leaf. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is true, but it's not the case.
She's like, I can open the bag if you want. I'm like, no. I said,
not how it works. Oh, God.
No. So she went back and she
doesn't run and she doesn't understand tea. I don't know how you cope.
She went back and she made me another one. I didn't force her to. She offered to. And then she came up with the pumpkin tea, but she just put way too many tea leaves in, so it was very, very strong. So it's actually gone, because I had to wait for it to cool down and then just down it all, because it was way, way too strong, because there was about that much, like a good few inches of tea leaves in the bottom of the diffuser thing. So yeah, it was a bit of a tea fail, but I appreciate...
What an ordeal you've had.
Oh my God, this is the rich biscuit tea all over again. I appreciate the effort. Yeah.
Wow, what a stressful time. We've had a little extra time since the last episode. What have you been up to?
I've started coaching. I haven't started
Well,
coaching.
no,
I'm being coached.
Yeah, okay, God, that would be even weirder.
Coached.
Christ, imagine.
Could you imagine me coaching people? Oh, yeah, just do what you want.
So Gemma's little sale pitch last week worked quite well.
Yeah. Yep, I messaged her and I was like, please coach me. And she was like, yeah. So yeah, she's started being coached. I've had like 2 weeks of coaching. So next week I'm having my catch up with her, which, it's been really, really good. It's perfect for me because Gemma is on it if you miss a session. So she uses this app, and on it you have all your sessions, and then when you've done a session, it either connects to your Strava or whatever, and it uploads the activity, or you can manually like put in. So if it's like a strength or a mobility thing, you can manually say like you've done it and leave a comment. And the first day, because I was still getting to grips with the app, it had like a mobility session, but I didn't track it on my watch, so it was like 10 minutes mobility. So I just I didn't know what to do, so I just like left it. I didn't know how to like click something to say I've done it. And she messaged me on WhatsApp and was the next day at like 6:30 with a screenshot of my uncompleted activity and just put, "Is everything okay?" I was like, yeah, I have done it. I just don't know how to retrospectively say that I've done it. I figured it all out now. But yeah, I mean, that's good for me because it is hardcore accountability. And especially because, we're doing things by time, which is something with the runs, which is something I'm not used to. So like a 45-minute recovery run or a 90-minute long run at the weekends, which I'm used to working miles. And actually... It's really nice to work in time because then I'm not out for fucking hours. I can just say, okay. And Freya's really relieved because I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to be out for a couple of hours and I'm gone for like 5. But yeah, so it's nice actually to know, oh, I'm just going to be out for 90 minutes or I'm just going to be out for 45 minutes. It's quite motivating in a way. But also because Gemma, I know, is quite strict, I don't feel tempted to go over the time. If like you've done an X number of miles, like, oh, just squeeze in a few more. But I daren't, because she's like 90-minute cap, no more than 90 minutes. You can do less, but no more. I'm like, okay. So as soon as it hits 90 minutes, I'm walking the rest of the way because I'm like, please, I don't want a screenshot on WhatsApp being like, Amy, why have you run 50 minutes? Like 2 hours when you should have run 90 minutes. So yeah. So it's really, really good for me because I need somebody to tell me off if I do something wrong, or else I will just do what I want. So yeah.
So what's like the overall aim? What have you kind of asked her to do, basically?
So my overall aim, and people will not believe this. People will think this is against the very ethos of what I've stood for so long. But I just want to get like a bit faster on the trails.
Oh, sorry. Spit take from the tea there.
I know. But I'm not going in it to win. I'm not going in it to do like 10k PBs on the road or 5k PBs. Yeah. I can't imagine anything worse. But like when I'm running ultras and stuff, I just want to take a few hours off, Like I don't want to be out there for as many hours as I am. And I was looking back on my Strava actually from like 5 years, 6 years ago, before I started doing ultras basically. And I was able to go out for a 10-mile run and get it done in under 2 hours, even with like a bit of elevation and stuff like that. And still be averaging like 10-minute miles even with elevation chucked in there. And now I'm like doing a 10-mile run on the trails. It's like 14-minute miles, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like one of my goals is to just get a bit faster because I love doing long runs. I love being out on the trails, but I just don't want to be out there all fucking day. I just don't. And especially when I'm doing ultras, they just take me a long, long time. And for some people, that's absolutely fine. And when I first started doing ultras, that was absolutely fine because I was like, I just want to do the distance. But and like I said, I'm not going to be one of those people that focuses so much on time. I'm getting super, super fast, and that's all I'm all I'm bothered about. I'm not that sort of obsessed about it. But it's that thing of when you're out there on like a 30 miler and you're out there sometimes for like 11 hours, it's just a lot of time on feet for 30 miles, you know? And if I can get that down to like 8 hours or 9 hours, 8 would be amazing, then it makes such a difference. And I know, because when I'm out doing ultras, when I get past sort of 9 hours, that's when it starts getting really hard in other ways, if you know what I mean, because it's so much time on feet. So I just want to reduce my time on feet a bit. I just want to get a bit faster, because I think that will help in a weird way. It will help me to enjoy my ultras more, because I'm just not out there for so long.
Yeah, and I think when you're running like a slightly better pace, I think you'd feel stronger, you'd feel a bit more confident. You're not just running at the slowest pace you can and trying to hold it all day. Because I think I did that on my first few ultras, and actually by the time I got to, I can't remember which one it was, third or fourth, I actually made a decision, I'm going to run this a bit quicker. So I knew the first 10k or so was relatively easy, so I'll actually make a bit of effort on that, and I actually had a better time overall. I do like to push myself. I wasn't sprinting this, but I had a better time, I think, because I made a bit more effort. I put a bit more into it. And I think if you're doing that training, and you've been doing speed and intervals and hill sessions, which means you will be stronger, which means hopefully you'll have a better time when you're doing it, because you'll just be a bit fitter, and you'll be a bit more capable.
That's exactly it. So like, in terms of like slow running, I can go for a long time, but the longer you go, the more you're having issues with your feet, the more you're having issues with energy in particular. So what I found towards the end of a lot of my ultras, particularly when you get up to like 40 miles, is just feeling really tired, because I've been out there all day and I just want to go to sleep. Things like that, and then it becomes really, really not enjoyable. And
there's more steps and more impact as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So just getting a bit quicker, doing more running as well. Like a lot of my ultras, I took the extreme of like, oh yeah, we can walk on ultras, like that's fine, but I do it just way too much. So just getting up my fitness so I'm able to run for longer periods of time and things like that. So yeah, that is my goal. Like I said, I'm not looking to get like a road 10k PB or anything ridiculous like that. I just want to take a few hours off my like 30 mile, 40 mile time. So yeah.
So how long has it been since you've done like a proper interval session?
So it's probably been, I was thinking about this, it would have been pre-pandemic, because it would have been when I was still going to club, and oh god, so maybe like 2018, maybe 19. So yeah, but I really enjoyed the interval session. So Gemma was like, you're going to actually absolutely hate me and blah blah blah. I actually really enjoyed it, because it just made a change, I actually really
I found that at the beginning of the year. The novelty of it is quite nice. And I've been like looking at your Strava, I'm like looking at the pace, like your peak pace on those intervals. I'm like, Amy Gender's running that pace.
I know, but you know what as well, I was going through my Instagram, and I found I did the Cardiff Bay 5 mile whenever that was on, but I did that like a while ago now, but I was doing 7-minute miles the whole thing.
Shut up.
Yeah, I can't remember the finishing time, but it worked out to like 7.
I mean, that'd be 35 minutes.
7:30. Or maybe it was like 8 minutes. It was fast. It was like 41 minutes or something. I did it in like 41 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. And
I mean, that was a while ago, because that's before they sold out and made it a 10k.
Yeah, but I was like, I used to actually run like all right, like fairly quick compared to like what I do now.
Fact check. In 2015, Amy Genders ran the Cardiff Bay 5 mile in 46 minutes 23.
So, yeah, and it's just, I like being out for hours on the trails, but I want to get a bit further. If I'm going to be out for 5 hours, I want to have done a fucking marathon or something, like, or like, like 20 miles. I don't want to have just done like 15 and be like, okay, That's
good. Oh, I'm really pleased. It's quite nice looking through Strava now, just having a look at like, oh, okay, I'm having a look at this, see what's going on.
I've started naming my workouts as well, because I'm like, oh, this is the warm-up, and this is
no
the
more
intervals.
morning run for you.
No more morning run. Yeah. So, and the other thing I've started doing as well is, because I'm actually like running a little less, I've started going on walks as well, especially because I work from home a lot in the summer. So when I'm like going to work, I end up doing like 7 miles a day, because I like commute on public transport and stuff like that. But over the summer, I'm not doing that. So I've started going for walks, like just making a conscious effort to go out and just like walk for like 4 or 5 miles. But the annoying thing is, I've looked this up. My Coros, it's the Coros Apex, the first one. It doesn't have an option for walk, so I have to call it a hike. And I'm literally just walking on a flat tarmac surface near around where I live. And it's like, oh, a hike. I'm like, it's not a hike. It's not. And I feel so embarrassed.
We've been over this before. Unless you have sandwiches,
Yeah.
it's just a walk.
Yeah, and then Jen Danger Harding, friend of the podcast, left a comment the first time I did this and was like, when is a walk and when is it a hike? And I was like, Jen, honestly, don't worry about it. My watch just does not have a walk function, so I'm sorry. So if you're seeing on my Strava me doing a lot of hikes, they're not hikes, they are just walks, you know. But
Sure, you're not stopping for lunch.
No, exactly, and it's just a flat tarmac surface, which I don't think really counts as a hike, really. So yeah, that's me. I'm like a whole different person. I'm being coached, and I'm going on walks. Who is this person? Anyway, what have you been up to?
Well, again, speaking of whole new person, this year is a strange year. I got another 5k PB.
Oh,
so
well done.
That was, although it took me about 2 hours to realise.
Okay.
Because I'm a bit stupid. So I did the race in Cardiff. It's the Safa 5k at the end of June. And actually, when I finished it was a really, really hot evening. So a lot of people had a really bad time because it was just, that was like the one hot evening we've had this year. And I don't feel like the heat slowed me down too much, though it probably did in reality. But the thing is, when I finished, there was no water at the end.
Oh, no.
And so I was a bit annoyed. And I walked right over to where Holly was and a few people that were there supporting. And when I went up to it, all I said was like, no water at the end is absolute bullshit. I grabbed some water out of Holly's bag and then I kind of turned away because I was going to like just drink a little bit of it and spit it out. So I turned away to do that because I'm very polite. But because I'd just come over and complained, grabbed the water and turned away, everyone kind of looked at each other being like, oh shit, he's really pissed off. And they were all apparently like giving each other big eyes as if to say, fucking hell, Stuart's kicking off. And I had just had absolutely no idea about this. And then I was just like, I was only told about this later. And I'm like, oh, sorry, no, definitely. That's just me moaning because I always moan. Don't worry about it. So that was quite funny. But yeah, I finished in... The annoying thing is, the problem with what I did was, it was my mistake. I trusted my watch too much. And all I had on my watch face, again, my mistake, was my current pace and my overall pace. Because I knew I was aiming for 20 minutes. Keep it under 4 minutes a kilometre, I've got my goal. So I didn't look at like overall time or distance or anything like that. But that was obviously a mistake because the watch didn't record through exactly. It was a little bit short, which meant it showed my pace being a bit slower. And so as I got into the final kilometre, I looked at my watch. I was like, no, I think it's gone. I'm not going to get it. I'm going to be in the high 20s somewhere. So, I'll keep on this pace, but I'm not going to massively push myself because I'm not going to get a PB. So what? As I got around the final corner, which is really close, there was the pace clock was there. And as I saw it, it was basically a couple of seconds before my PB. And so I crossed the line pretty much on the same time. So that kind of confused me a bit because I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I didn't have that. And then I thought, if I'd have known, I could have made 2 seconds up. So I think I stopped my watch and I thought it was like 2 seconds after my PB, which is so stupid. So I thought if I'd have known, I would have actually pushed on if I hadn't, looked at my watch properly. Or if it just had elapsed time on watch like every other normal person does. But then I got home and like an hour later, looking through the results, and as I was going through, I just kind of accidentally scrolled and I realised there was a horizontal scroll on the results screen. And there was gun time and then there was chip time. I'm like, oh yeah, chip time is a thing. So it was actually a PB by 4 seconds. So it was kind of an annoying way to find out a PB because I was already annoyed about it. So there was no like big celebration. It was like, oh, there's a PB. Oh. I was kind of committed to being annoyed about it, but never mind. So that's nice. I didn't get 20 minutes. I got 2019. But August, I'm definitely going under 20. That's what I'm telling myself. I'm going to keep going for it. It's quite fun to go for it. So yeah, that was good. However, the day after that, something I would not recommend. If you run a 5k PB on a Wednesday, do not play 90 minutes of 11-a-side football the day after, especially when you play against the team that I play against, who will remain nameless for the purposes of this podcast. At one point, I got elbowed in the ribs so hard. It's now 3 weeks later and it still hurts.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I spent a lot of that Friday morning like feeling both sides of my rib cage, trying to determine if it was broken or not, because it really, really hurt. Like really deep breaths in, like rolling over in bed. You don't realise how much you use your ribs until you don't. and like rolling over in bed for like 2 weeks. I was like every time.
Is that allowed in football?
Bad. I mean, no, not really. But a lot of the stuff they were doing wasn't allowed. I think this one was just a bit of a random clash. It wasn't. I don't think it was just a direct dig, but it was a sharp elbow, square in the side of my ribs, and yeah, that really, really hurt. So also, following football next week, I went to Bushy Park Run, the home of Park Run, where it all began many, many years ago. It's just like a big park run, really. I mean, you go there, it's like you know how park run is. It's just like that, but with more people.
I do know how park run is, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is, really. It's just a big park run. I mean, it's quite nice. It was quite nice there actually, because there was lots of they have an annual octogenarian meetup, so they have just loads of really old runners, which is really cool. I'm not sure. I think a few of them did meet me, to be fair, because they always do. Because like, there's so many 80-year-old runners that are just ludicrously good. Like, not even for their age, they're just good. So yeah, I think a few of those did meet. Loads of 80 and 90-year-old runners as well. That's always kind of quite nice to see. And it was a bit rainy, so yeah, it was nice to see that happened. I also had a race this week, and I did the same kind of thing. This race was 2.8 miles. It's a relay race, baton in your hand, and as we know, a baton makes you run 10% faster, or at least 10% harder, because you have to, because it's a team event. Even though, clearly not going to win, but you do anyway. So ran as fast as I possibly could, absolutely ruined myself. Next day, played football again. Such bad timing. The next game we've got coming up is 2 days after my marathon.
Oh my God.
So again, I don't think this is not working out well for me.
No.
My rib was pretty much fine. It got much better. But I think on that day, earlier in the morning, I sneezed. And I was like, oh, God. Oh, no, it still hurts. Sneezing with bad ribs is really, really bad. And then, yeah, played football again. Was mostly okay. Someone did give me a bit of a push at some point. And that kind of like, yeah, I think I'm going to stop. No, that's enough. So, yeah, football is a bad idea generally. At least we won that game. So that was nice. So, yeah, a bit of a dramatic few weeks. Quite a lot going on. Good and bad, so at least I've got things to complain about. That's the main thing.
Do you still have a sports hernia, whatever people are diagnosing you with?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I feel it every now and then, but it's not too bad. I mean, I've just run a 5k PB, so it can't be that bad,
no,
right?
It's fine, yeah.
It's weird. I've run a few PBs in the last year or so, and they've all kind of been while I've been injured. So I'm like, are they that bad injuries?
Nah, it's helping
it's probably fine. I mean, apparently so. Yeah. The data supports that. Mm-hmm. Let's move on now and let's talk about running on holiday. This is all thanks to an email from Simon Ross. So we're going to be looking at some of your mishaps and misfortunes about running on holiday. Now, his email said, "Hi, Stuart and Amy. Throughout the year, I'm always jealous when scrolling through Strava of anyone who posts a run whilst on holiday, always thinking how great it looks and how much I love running on holiday. I am now on holiday in Tenerife, and I'm reminded that running on holiday is actually bullshit. The reasons." He says, 1. It's too fucking hot. I've spent the last 10 months running in the pissing rain. I'm not prepared at all for any kind of heat. The only sensible option is to run at 6 a.m, but who the hell wants to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning when you're on holiday? I definitely do that.
Yeah, I do. I get up earlier.
Every weekend, I get up earlier than I do during the week, and I go on holiday, and I get up at 6 a.m. It's ridiculous. Second one, only having one pair of running shoes. I'm one of those running shoe obsessives who has a different pair for every type of run, usually rotating 4 or 5 pairs at any given time. So, only having one pair is a bit shit. I could have packed more, but I'm married, and apparently there was some small print in my wedding vows about giving up half my suitcase space when going on holiday, so my wife can take 3 times as many clothes as me. Don't get into that. Third reason, getting lost. I don't have a fancy watch with route guidance and I have no sense of direction. Despite meticulous planning with Google Maps before I go, within half a mile I'm lost and every road looks the fucking same. I'm limited to basic loops or out and backs, which I can just about cope with, but these are quickly getting boring. We will come back to planning on Google Maps. 4. Hand washing sweaty kit. I've only brought 2 lots of kit with me because of the limited suitcase space, and I'm losing half my body weight in sweat on every run. I don't want to stink, so I'm toiling over the hotel bathroom sink, washing rivers of sweat out of my shorts every other sodding day. And finally, constipation. At the start of my holidays, I went 3 days without a shit. Brackets, is it only me this happens to? He said, I dare not run. Tenerife is a volcanic island, but the only eruption I was worried about was the one from my arse, when 3 days worth of excrement would inevitably make a bid for freedom. So, running on holiday is actually bullshit. All the best, Simon. P.S. Update on point number 5. This situation was resolved on day 4 via a controlled explosion in one of the hotel's outside toilets. There were no casualties. And outside, you do want to do it in your own room toilet, clearly. You go to one of the public ones. Just if there are any casualties, you want someone else to deal with it.
Yeah, I do understand that, though. I think there's something about travel. Maybe it's when you're traveling, you don't drink as much because you're traveling and doing other things, but or I don't know whether it's air travel.
I always spend the first 2 days of holiday nicely dehydrated.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like, I'm traveling, I don't want to be going to the toilet all the time, and then you get there and it's quite warm.
Yeah.
And then I just end up being really dehydrated. And then because it's really warm, I don't drink any tea, and then I get the caffeine withdrawal.
Yeah.
So I got that for the next few days as well. So love holidays.
I get the constipation for the first few days. I understand. Yep, I think
4 days though is bad.
4 days is bad. That is proper backed up. That is like,
you don't want to be going for a run on that.
No, not on 4 days worth of shit. No.
So that was a nice comprehensive overview. I think that covers a lot of the main points of running on holiday, doesn't it? But we've had a few more.
Yeah, I will say though, on the subject of clothes, what I do, especially if you're going somewhere hot, like you double up your running clothes for everyday walking around clothes. Like I take shorts that I just walk around in the day, and then the next day I run in them. You know, you get 2 things out of them. Or like
you give them a little rinse in the shower and just hang them on the balcony. It's fine. You don't wash them that much.
But yeah, I do double up my running clothes, and I just wear them around my, whatever I'm doing. So
take up a lot less space in a suitcase.
Yeah. It's like, and also I've done the crazy thing of just taking some running shoes, and that's all I take. And I run in them, I walk around in them, I do everything in them. That's all I take.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We've also had a message from Debbie Curly Whirly, who says, running in Japan is bullshit. Went over with a friend so she could complete her majors. I was also training for a half when I got back. Early 6-mile run around Kyoto, very nice scenery, job done. Until later in the day, we went to Fushimi Inari, hopefully I've said that right, and ended up climbing to the top without fully researching the elevation or distance. Oh my god. Apparently, it is 230 metres high and has approximately 12,000 steps. Going downwards was definitely more bullshit than climbing upwards, I imagine, yeah. Japan is amazing, but your legs will be in bits. Step count each day was consistently over 20k, I bet.
12,000 steps up a hill. That's a lot of steps.
That is horrific, yeah.
Ria Eris says, running from near Canterbury to Whitstable, UK, when on holiday this year, I found out some of the roads that Google Maps told me were runnable were ones that weren't even B roads, but cars still drove at you really quickly. What BS? And linked to this, Kat Abigail Hardman also had messaged to say that she stopped to pick up a runner who was running on the hard shoulder of the A47 near Norwich. Now, if you're not local, this is a 70-mile-an-hour dual carriageway that runs around Norwich. It's surrounded by fields on both sides, and all the junctions on there, they just lead to other rural roads. So it doesn't go through any towns or villages. It doesn't go that close to any either. So if you're running there, you are absolutely and completely mental. It's you don't run there. It's a proper dual carriageway. Like even a really basic look at Google Maps to plan the route, which Kat found out because she picked him up and spoke to him. There are 2 really obvious country lane routes either side of it. But this guy, he ran past one of these lanes, he got to the junction, he ran down the slip road, and instead of thinking, there's no path there, this is a dual carriageway, he didn't run back up, he just carried on.
Oh my God.
It's just insane.
That is insane. I mean, you don't want that really embarrassing thing either. You know, in like on motorways when they're like cyclist on the motorway or pedestrian on the motorway, and you have like a police escort behind you, getting like a delivery driver off the road or something.
Yeah, but like, well done to Kat for actually. She said she went past him, and there was a lay-by, so she pulled in, and as he came past, she was like, "What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Let me give you a lift." I'm like, "Good for you," because I don't think I would have done that.
Yeah, that, especially as a woman as well. Like that's, I mean, taking a risk. But I bet, I do find though that is really tricky when you go on holiday, either in the UK or abroad, but more in places where that you have like country lanes, is knowing, is this country lane safe to run on? Because I think when you're in your local area, like some country lanes that are used fairly frequently and that people go really fast on, you probably wouldn't run on. Whereas others that are like very, very quiet, you would. So I often find that a really tricky thing. If I end up staying somewhere where staying out in the middle of the sticks and thinking, can I run on these country lanes, is that safe, or am I just asking to be, are people expecting to see a runner or somebody on the road?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but like, I don't think this is a Google Maps problem in this particular one. This is just this guy is
You'd turn round,
mental.
wouldn't you? You'd get to the dual carriageway and you'd turn the fuck round.
Yeah, I mean, even on Google Maps, it's such an easy, obvious route.
It's got an A in its name.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's no path. It's one of those ones with like massive banks either side. There's not. It's so strange. But yeah, don't use Google Maps to plan running.
No, use Strava, heat maps.
Yeah, it has pedestrian directions on it, I know, but it doesn't know if there's a path. Google Maps does not give a shit if there's a path or not. Like, so often I've looked at the planned routes with the pedestrian one, and it will take me across junctions that are just roads with no paths. Google Maps was made for drivers. It is not made for pedestrians. You need to use OpenStreetMaps or OS Maps or Strava Maps. Strava Heat Maps especially are really good. Use something like that.
The one that I use a lot, especially if you've got like navigation on your watch, but I use Plotter Route. If you just go on Plotter Route, it's really janky and it's really difficult to use, but it will bring up, like, if you can figure out how to use it, it will bring up a load of routes and you can download the GPX. It's free. You get a load of shitty adverts that you have to click off, but it's good. Like, I use Plotter Route a lot if I'm going somewhere new just to download something, so yeah.
Yeah, I think the underlying base map of that is probably OpenStreetMaps, which is like the open source map that I use a lot. And that means that people locally have updated those maps, and generally they will say if a road is suitable for pedestrians or not.
Yeah. The other thing, just to add into that, because I saw this story that was posted, like a post by some sort of mountain rescue team, and they were talking about apps like, is it called All Trails and Commute? Commute, whatever that other one's called, begins with K. Commute. And they were saying just be really wary with that, because they've had to rescue a few people over the past few months since those apps have started becoming popular. Because people will plot routes that are actually quite dangerous, and people will just blindly follow it, and they end up going down mountains in ways they shouldn't be going down a mountain, like on the wrong paths. And I have noticed, because sometimes when I'm searching routes, All Trails will come up, and if you look at the comments, people will be like, don't use this, it goes through private land and all this. So I tend not to use All Trails and that other one, because I do think there's a lot of dodgy routes on there. Again, Plotter Route tends to be used by an OpenStreetMap, it tends to be used by more walkers, cyclists, runners, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't use a route I just found another person had done without like really researching it myself.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, I will quite often, if I'm planning a route, I'll have like 4 different maps open. I've got the heat map, I've got Google Maps, I've got Street View, and I've got like whatever else, like this, Strava as well. So I'll have loads of stuff open.
And just be prepared to turn back. Like if you get to a point where you're like,
just turn back.
Take enough water, and even if it's a longer route, take enough water, whatever you need. Just turn around if you need to. Whatever. Just be prepared to turn back. Jesus.
Well, here we go. Here's a story about turning back now for you.
There we go. Sherry Grubbs had a bad time trying to get around Universal Studios hotels in Florida, as every path was a dead end and the only way to loop was to run the streets through parking lots and behind loading docks. Can I just quickly come in here and say, yes, running in America. I haven't actually run in America, because the few times I've been to America was before I was a runner. But trying to walk in America to get somewhere, so imagine trying to run, in a lot of places is a fucking nightmare, because they just like the infrastructure for pedestrians is insane. And I've been to Florida. I've been to like Universal Studios in Florida, and I remember booking the hotel, and it's like, you can walk to Universal Studios. It's like, you couldn't. You could if there was paths, but there weren't paths. There was. You couldn't even walk to a restaurant nearby. I had to get a taxi to go to a restaurant because there were no paths anywhere. It was anyway. So yeah, if you're going to America, like those sorts of places, then yeah, nightmare. Anyway, when she headed to the well-kept City Walk in the theme park itself, she was turned around by security, despite being there far before the park opened properly. But don't worry, the hotel offered the use of their treadmill and the workout room for free. Sorry, that my mistake. For a fee. What the hell? You're staying in that hotel and you have to pay extra to oh my god. She also said that she visits Manhattan and always makes time for a run in Central Park, as it's fantastic. However, Helen Rutter also ticked off a bucket list run in Central Park, New York. She said, started okay, then got lost and panicked, got all hot and bothered, burst into tears. Hundreds of people around, never felt so lost and alone. Oh my god. Didn't want to phone Andy due to the cost, but ended up having to. He directed me to him via landmarks and skyscrapers. Yeah, because I've never been to New York, but Central Park's massive, isn't it? I can imagine you can get lost in there quite easily.
Yeah, but there is like a main big loop that everyone runs. And I suppose if you go off that loop, or you don't know where you are on that loop, and you're not much good with maps, then yeah, I can imagine you might feel like you've just kind of in the middle of nowhere. Simon Marston said he went running in Cornwall last year, ended up on a trail going up to a lighthouse. Didn't realise how steep an incline it was till I got there, and it was hateful. Don't think I've ever felt quad burn like it. Still, led to one of my favourite mid-run photos. Haven't got a photo here because it's a podcast. He said, actually going back tomorrow as it happens, so I might try the route again if I find myself enjoying myself too much. Yeah, it's a good punishment, right? It's always good to have a nice punishment route in mind.
Yeah, definitely. If you've been naughty, go for your punishment run to the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
David Irwin at Spoldwick Saint said, wild, quote unquote, wild dogs are bullshit on holiday abroad as they are so unpredictable. Yeah, I totally get that. You know, when you're like running somewhere you don't really know abroad and you hear dogs barking, you're like, what is this? Yeah, not a fan of that. Which Nicola Forward agrees with. She said, on a trail run in Turkey, I got chased by a pack of dogs up a hill with nobody else around. I picked up the biggest rock I could find and ran back down the hill with it only to almost step on a snake. Jesus. I panic ran back to the hotel thinking, I wonder if the snakes here are poisonous. Looked it up and yes, they do have poisonous snakes. Some things you should think about before you going trail running. I always do that. I'm always looking up like, are there wolves in Norway? Like things like that. I search history when I go somewhere. She goes on, I ran up and down the beach for the rest of the holiday. It definitely scared me off the trails. Yeah, I always do like a bit of a research, like what sort of animals are lurking when I go somewhere.
I don't think I've ever had that. The dogs I've seen on most holidays, I think go to hot places, they're usually pretty chill. They're just happy to hang around.
I don't know whether like the dogs in Turkey have rabies as well, because I remember, and I know why this was a thing, but when I was in school, a guy came in to speak to us. This was like when I was like 13 or something. He came in to speak to us, and he's one of the only survivors of rabies when it gets to a certain point, and he was bitten by a pack of dogs in Turkey, and he got rabies.
Don't tell Nicola that. She's not going back.
He got rabies, but like obviously, I think once you develop the full-on symptoms, it's like too late then. But he got like so far through it, and he had to have all these injections. I don't know why it's so random. I don't know why they came in to speak to us, but yeah, it was interesting. But I always remember, yeah, that was a pack of wild dogs in Turkey. So yeah,
that was a good job. She had that big rock.
Yeah.
That was the advice I'm sure he gave. Yeah. We've got just one more animal issue from Mark Atkinson at Monty the Mole. He says, British seagulls are amusing sky chickens. Spanish seagulls are winged demons that will try and drive you into the sea if you even look like running past them.
I mean, British seagulls can do that too, you know. I
think you'll find a lot of people on the south coast will be laughing at the idea of there being amusing sky chickens when they can be pretty nasty.
They can be very aggressive.
And just a final one, Gemma Brimble had to sign a disclaimer to leave the hotel in Egypt. No. Come on.
I mean, anywhere where they make me sign a disclaimer before leaving, I wouldn't go. Because there are, like, a fair few countries where...
Yeah, I don't want to be all, like, white middle-class traveller on it, but that's just not a place I would go.
No. There is civil unrest a lot of the time and lots of issues. So it's not somewhere especially not me. I'm not going to go anywhere like that. I would be stoned in the streets, me. Like, I am not No, I don't think it's particularly LGBTQ plus Amy friendly.
No, probably not. I was trying to think. I was looking back through all my runs. All my runs I've done on holiday and abroad. I don't think I've got any dramatic stories. I've generally just had quite a nice time, so I'm not going to say anything. Have you got any particular kind of standout running holiday bullshit?
So I've run a lot, like in different countries, because I travel sometimes for work, for conferences and stuff, and I always like to go for a run. That's the main reason I go. I pick the conferences I go on depending on like where the nicest trails are, and I've been to some amazing places. Like I went to Lugano in Switzerland and I did a run to Italy. I didn't go in because the border was like properly manned and stuff. It was like a proper hard border, but that was pretty cool to see on Strava, like running to Italy. So that stuff like that is quite cool. But in terms of horror stories, the one that stands out the most, and I think it happened while while we were doing the podcast, as in like it was, early days of the podcast, was when I got lost in Snowdonia. And it was just horrific. And I've got them on my Instagram. I've got like the stories pinned because I was taking stories at the time. But what was supposed to be a 5-mile run just turned into this like horrific getting lost. And then, for the majority of the run, for half of the run, I was next to this river and it had been raining a lot. So this river was flowing fast and it was high. And to be totally honest, with hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been on that path when that river was flowing so fast and so high. So that was one thing. That was like really, really sketchy. And then the second half, which I ended up just going up a mountain. You could see on the elevation of my Strava, it was like a straight line going upwards. And there was this terrifying moment because I was already stressed. I'd had that stuff with the river. I'd gotten a bit lost and I had to get the compass out on my phone. Luckily, thank God, I took a picture of the map because I didn't have a route on my watch. I just thought, well, it's just a route that's marked, so I just follow the markings, but it wasn't. Luckily, I took a picture of the map on my phone. I looked at the picture and I could see which way I was supposed to be going, like north, south, east and west. I got the compass out on my phone and realised I was going the wrong direction and how to get back onto the right trail. There was this horrific moment when I was walking up this mountain, and when I got to the top, all I could see was just mountains. Like no sign of, because we were in this Airbnb in this small little like collection of houses, like a hamlet or something, but there was nothing. It was just mountains, and there was just that feeling of complete terror of where am I? No phone signal. I was stressing out. I'd gone with my mum for a weekend away, and we were supposed to be leaving that morning to go back home. And I remember saying to her, I'm going to be about max 2 hours. 'Cause it's 5 miles. It wasn't. It was 9 miles in the end. I said, I'm going to be like max like 2 hours because it looks quite hilly. So it probably might be max 2 hours if it's really hilly. I was out for 3.5 hours, and part of me was terrified that my mum was going to call mountain rescue and it'd be really embarrassing because then mountain rescue. I didn't need rescuing. I was okay. I was scared, but I was okay. But I was so stressed that my mum was going to call. She didn't. I got back and she was like, "Oh yeah, I was a bit concerned, but I just thought, just taking a bit longer."
It's just normal for you, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It was. That was absolutely terrifying. I do prefer running when I'm away in places where I do have phone signal, because then it's so easy to just open up your Google Maps and figure out how to get back. But now I've got a better watch, I just download routes. I think it's a really nice way to explore places. Like when I was in Lanzarote, I downloaded this amazing route that literally went like on a scramble up the side of a volcano and stuff, which was really cool. So yeah, I haven't had really any horror stories since.
Not since, but at least you got one in there. That's good.
Yeah.
Have anyone else got their running horror stories while on holiday? We want to know about them. Let's move on. You can support this podcast by going to patreon.com/runningisbullshit. You can donate money every month if you really want to. New to the list this month is, I think it's supposed to be Bill B, but he's put it together, so it's just Bilb. So thank you very much, Bilb. As a thank you, here are the names of all the other people who've paid us money this month. To everyone in England, you're welcome. To the people in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, not sorry at all. To everyone else, you will have no idea what's going on, and I am sorry to you. Tony Howells, Ivor Hewitt, Andy Nichols, Debbie Hurley, Kel Ryder, Cheryl Curran, Graham Hackler, Nicky Jones, Penny Simpson, Ian Hales, Victoria Cousins, Brian Simpson, Shabolic Adult, Clark Gilmore, Gabby Thomas Nair, Paul Hibbert, Gregory C, Liz Rees, Gail Seal, Carl Fleming, Adam Baker, Rich Skirm, Ben Martin, Bill, Larry, Warren, Claire, Davis, Anthony Howe, Neil Denton, Kath Everard, Angela Foster, Swales, Alice Newstead, Steve Robson, Erin Shaw, Sophie Nichols, Jason Spinks, Charlie Neverson, Vicky Robbins, Matt Caff, Matt H, Matt Lees, Sherry Kinnison, Stuart Stevens, Claire Dina, AP, David Owen, Raymond Quinn, Victoria Dick, Catherine Brown, Bernadette McCarthy, David Yellowmag, Teetle, Jonathan Carter, Karen Blake, Noms Dawson, Rachel Bentley, Elliot Line, Dewi, Matt Burrows, Martin Kaplan, Daniel Broadley, Wood, Matt Garner, Julia Page, Matt Ziorski, Andrea Laurent, Ruth KP, Tom Alcock, Matt McBree, Kiara Evans, Lisa Gibbon, Jay Howells, Kat Abigail Hardman, Andy Robbins, Taryn Milligan, Mark Willis, Amanda Murray Hind, Victoria Magnus, Drew Edwards, Sherry Grubbs, Maria Wicks, Tony Boyle, Martin Jowsey, Francis Howell, Katrin Fenton, HP, Sandra Heinzer, Elizabeth Schramm, Ian Thompson, Sophie Jacks, Jenny Thomas, Abby Dawn Shepherd, Matt Jones, Nikki Genders, Spencer Aldred, Karen Hamilton, Rachel Bowman, Jay.
Don't forget to get in touch with your running bullshit on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Running as BS and let us know why you particularly hate running this week.
We love to hear it. Jay Louise said, I completed my first overnight race and can confidently say I never want to do one again. I went and attempted the 50-mile ultramarathon I had booked prior to getting injured and shockingly finished in just under 15 hours. Here is a short list of just some of the bullshit things that happened. It started at 10 p.m. No idea how you meant to prepare for that. It poured with rain for 9 hours straight. I went off-route at least 5 times due to the dark and my own inability to navigate. There was a mile-long section which had thousands of dead rabbit carcasses strewn about. This was at 5 a.m, so I may have been hallucinating.
I think so.
Yeah, either way, thousands of dead rabbit carcasses or you're hallucinating from missing one night's sleep is quite worrying. I had to climb over 6 barbed wire fences. My own fault for bad navigation and just couldn't be bothered to go all the way back after adding distance on previously after going wrong. Stomach decided to have a meltdown the entire time, so generally had a shitty time. The last mile and a half was all on a sandy beach in full view of spectators and I couldn't even try to run because I was so tired at that point. The route ended up being 55 miles instead of 50, partly because ultras are always a bit long, partly because I can't navigate to save my life. One bonus not bullshit thing though, the last aid station had a lady making sandwiches on request with a range of fillings and spreads to choose from. I betrayed my Welsh roots and went for a very American PB&J. They also had school-style iced buns, which is the best thing I have ever eaten in my entire life.
That sounds banging. That kind of makes up for the 10 p.m. start, although not really, that is ridiculous. Sandwiches on request is amazing.
Sandwiches on request, but at the last aid station, I don't feel I could make decisions at that point. They'd be like, what sandwich do you want? I don't know. I just want someone to give me things.
I brought this rabbit that I found at the side of the road.
I brought thousands of rabbits. Yeah, that's very strange. Yeah, hopefully there's at least, they will tell you what to eat if you look a bit out of it.
Yeah.
But that's what you get for doing a 50-mile race that starts at 10 p.m.
That's like, maybe if it's like a 100-mile race and you're going to be out there, like, you know, but 50 miles, no.
Awful.
Andy Nichols said, I'm doing my best to make the coveted injury list, although no joy yet. I'll have to try harder. No. He said, nearly finished the last of 10 orienteering races in June, plus doubled up, like one of your listeners, with 2 races in an evening a couple of weeks ago. The first one, orienteering league race, should have started at 6 p.m. and left me just time to drive to the second one, trail race between clubs, on time, but sadly it started 15 minutes late. So got to race 2 about 15 minutes after it started and set straight off. Caught the tail though, humble brag, and refueled properly at the post-race barbecue. That's intense.
If you call out your own humble brag, it's not a humble brag. That's just bragging then. That's just straight out bragging. That's how that works. So did that say 10 orienteering races in June? That's a lot of orienteering to do in 1 month.
That is.
I assume Andy Nichols is not using Google Maps to navigate on his runs.
No.
Oh, Amy, this is one for you.
Okay.
Hello, Dan here from Wisconsin. I believe the Badger State. I wish to feed Amy's curiosity about races in America. Pun neither intended or regretted. I just ran a 10K at a small town event, around 300 participants. At the finish area, we were provided a sausage, egg and cheese breakfast burrito with sour cream and salsa,
Mate.
bananas, individual packets of trail mix, milk, chocolate and white, apple juice, orange juice, iced tea, coffee, a swag bag, including 2 free tea samples and a gift card for the local meat market. And last year, this same race had a free massage. Sadly, that was cut for this year. I've also seen bagels, pizzas and other pastries. All this is pretty typical.
I mean, yeah, that seems... How much are you paying, though? Because sometimes I see these American 10Ks and they're so expensive. So I am interested in how much you're paying for that.
I did ask that. Let me just having a check here. Yeah, this 10K... Well, actually, I think I did put this at the bottom. Yeah, I did check this with Dan, actually. I've got that at the bottom here. The 10K with all this food was $51, which is £39.
Oh, okay. So there are, like, some 10Ks in the UK, but that is expensive. Like, I'd expect...
That is expensive for a 10K.
That is expensive for a 10K. But if you're getting all that at the end, maybe it's worth it. I mean, some 10Ks, big city 10Ks, charge almost that much and give you fuck all. So
Yep.
I guess that's kind of worth it. I'm not a fan of, maybe it's just me, but just all the fucking dairy and fatty stuff at the end. It's just not my sort of
Well,
thing.
clearly not you, because you're vegan.
No, but even if I wasn't, but if they had like a vegan option of like egg and cheese and so, like, I'd be like, that is too much after a 10K. But the other stuff does sound very, very nice. The burrito just sounds like a bit much.
I do wonder, how long after a 10K, if I went hard, how long after I'd wait to need a sausage, egg and cheese burrito.
Yeah.
Oof,
That's intense.
that's heavy.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Like, I guess if that's pretty typical, are typically all your 10K races that expensive as well? Because I think that's the thing. Like, are there options where it's like a bit cheaper, but you don't get like a full buffet at the end?
Daniel said less typical was a race I did near Seattle, Washington, where a donut burrito bar was offered. They called them burrito nuts. This is best described through photos, which is not at all useful, but can be explained as such. A large flour tortilla inside of which is placed a couple of glazed donuts, sliced up with bits of bacon, marshmallows, chocolate syrup, topped with whipped cream. I should also mention the aid stations had cake. The pieces were skewered onto forks for quick inhalation. And there is a photo of just a tortilla full of sweets
Kind of like
and
a
cake.
crepe, but not, it's just in a tortilla instead.
That's very strange.
It's very American.
I mean, it's one of those things, it can't be bad, but again, after a race, how long do I want to wait before I want one of those? It's going to be a little while, surely.
Oh, I'm just seeing, you said the half with the burrito nuts was $85, 65 quid.
Yeah.
That is a lot for a half.
Yeah, I think but again, from what I've seen in America, that's fairly typical.
Yeah.
I've seen quite a lot of half marathons that cost at least $100.
Yeah. Well,
You better hope you get something for it.
I think, like, a lot of places, the cost of living in America's gone. Like, a lot of things are just expensive anyway, like a lot of places. But also, like, I've noticed their races, even the local races tend to be quite fancy. Like, you get, like, a fancy medal and a fancy T-shirt.
Yeah, it seems like it's a bit more of an event, as in, like, you go there to have a good time on the run, to get some food at the end and some music and some entertainment, where I think racing in the UK, a lot of racing in the UK, we do have those kind of races, but not as much. But there's a lot more serious racing. There's a lot more like club racing and things like that. People who want to get good times.
Yeah.
So I think there is a bit of a difference. I'm not sure. Again, this is based on very little experience. I'm not sure how common those kind of races in America are. They seem generally, from what I've seen, to be quite big, enjoyable, maybe community or corporate events.
The thing that bothers me, though, is if you've got a race in the UK, like some of these big city, 10Ks, half marathons, where they are charging pretty much almost that price, like they're expensive, then put some of this stuff on, put the buffet on at the end,
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
But I know in the UK, like, stuff like, and it's probably similar in America though, but like insurance can be really expensive, closing roads can be expensive, but you just know these big companies are making like a nice profit as well,
Yeah. Oh, you know what? fell races are always really good for food, generally in these. And I actually was looking up, for various reasons, recently, if you want to put on a fell race and get it like licensed by the Fell Running Association, you are not allowed to make money on that race. You're not allowed to raise money for charity, and you're not allowed to make profit from the race. You can make if you do make a profit, you can make a donation with that money, but you kind of have to show that you didn't intend to make a profit.
Right.
So all the money you make needs to be put into the race, which I actually really, really like. I didn't realise that was a thing, but that is a part of the condition of the licence, which I really, really like, which explains a lot of races I've done that have been £4 or £5, and we get loads of food at the end for like £5.
Yeah.
And that's why, because they're like, well, we've got 20 quid left over, let's get a load of chips in.
Yeah.
I love that.
Definitely. It's the bullshit run. News. Ba-da-ba-ba.
First up, a man has urged people to be vigilant after he was injured by swooping buzzards while running near the Mourne Mountains. Those are in Northern Ireland. Stephen Morgan said he has experienced 2 separate incidents involving birds swooping down on him near Forfanny Dam Reservoir and in Donard Forest over the past number of weeks. The buzzards are after him in 2 separate places. They've put out a hit on him. An RSPB spokesperson told BBC News Northern Ireland that one possible reason for a buzzard or buzzards to act in this way is that they are defending its nest or young. One incident earlier this month left Mr. Morgan bleeding with several cuts to his head. He told BBC News that he believes a number of buzzards are nesting in the area and may have mistaken him as a threat to their chicks. And as an extra little bonus for this, this runner, Stephen Morgan, runs for BARF, which is the Belfast Association of Rock Climbers and Fell Runners. They clearly put in rock climbers to make it BARF, didn't they?
Yeah.
They had BAF, and they were like, British Association of Fell Runners, BAFR. Oh, we need an R in there. We can't say runners fell. We'll say rock climbers. We'll throw that in, and we'll call ourselves.
We
BARF,
scramble up rocks sometimes. We're rock climbers.
Yeah.
Gross.
But there's a great photo here as well. There's a guy just like head bleeding from all these scratches from these buzzards. That is, it'd be really scary, but it is quite funny.
It's really gnarly. And I actually saw, when I was looking at the article along the side, like a similar article, and it was from a year ago where a woman had been attacked by a buzzard as well. So
Yeah, we almost certainly talked about that as well. We'll always talk about these because they are a little bit funny because they happen to other people.
And going back to that seagull thing, I've been swooped at and shit on by seagulls before. They can get really protective over their nests around this time of year. So yeah, that's. I love how he's like, they may have mistaken me as a threat to their chicks. Like he's like really putting it out there to the buzzards. I'm not a threat. It's just a mistake. It's a mistake. I'm not a threat.
I wasn't even looking at.
I might have been screaming and lunging, but it just an error. It's just a mistake. My bad.
I had no thoughts about eating your delicious eggs.
No.
Do not be concerned. I am your friend.
This empty egg box is just something I carry with me on all my runs. So, yeah. Oh, so we've got another story that that people on Facebook are using to have like a discussion around gender and women and things like that, which is quite interesting.
Doesn't take much.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But I think it's, what I referred to before was that story about the woman who won the whatever it was marathon, half marathon, whatever she won.
Yeah. And
her husband like pushed the kids out, and it was all just a misunderstanding. It was just a misunderstanding. But people on Facebook went nuts about this. And I said last time, I said I get it because a lot of women do struggle to have their own achievements and and make time for themselves separate to their kids and in terms of like caregiving responsibilities and all that. So I get why people use these stories as a way to get those feelings out and to get those discussions out. But this one, again, is one where people have got a bit of the wrong end of the stick. So this is about a Tenby marathon runner who got engaged at the end of her race. So a marathon runner who saw her partner down on one knee as she crossed the finish line said the moment was the most thoughtful proposal I could have ever imagined. So in the article there's an image as well where her partner's like down on one knee right at the finish line. So Sarah John from Pembrokeshire said it felt incredible when Thomas Grenfell popped the question at the end of the Tenby Marathon. Mr. Grenfell from Powys said it all worked out absolutely perfectly. And of course, I saw this article and I saw the picture and I thought, I'm going to look at the comments because I know what they're going to be. And it was just full of people like, why can't women just have their own moment? Why is he taking the moment for himself? Blah, 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 blah. And like I say, this is really difficult because I get where those comments come from because a lot of women have that experience, I think, where they can't just have a moment for themselves without somebody else inserting themselves into it or whatever. But again, like the story of that woman with her kids, this was something she wanted. She wanted to be proposed to in this way, and that's okay. Like, this is the thing, like, as women, we're allowed to make those choices. Like, it just because you might see that as her partner taking over in her moment, that's not how she saw it, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about these stories, and we've almost certainly, you know, in years past, have probably done a story like this and gone, oh yeah, it's ridiculous. Why can't you just do this? I would hate that. But they've gone to the BBC. She's given quotes to a news article she knows is going to be worldwide that says it's the most thoughtful proposal I could ever have imagined.
Yeah.
I think we probably just need to get over this a bit now. Like, if it's something that she wants, I mean, if she was furious about it and she kicked off about it, yeah, we can agree with her. But when she says it's something that she wanted, and again, probably most people in that situation, I feel like I would like to think most of them have discussed it at some point.
Oh, God, yeah.
And they may have seen it on other things. They might have other people done it and they've gone, oh my God, that is amazing. Imagine doing a marathon, something as incredible as that, and then that happens at the end to top it off. They've probably had that discussion. Yeah. So when other people do these things, I think it's probably time for us to get over it.
Yeah, but also there's plenty of women that are out there talking about the issues around caregiving responsibilities, around in terms of their kids, around sort of perhaps absent partners or husbands who aren't pulling their weight in some cases, so they end up having to look after the home more. There's lots of women talking about these issues. You don't need to let all this out on an article where a woman is getting what she wants in that situation.
Yeah. Like, she's very happy.
There's plenty of people engaged in those other forms of discourse, you know? Like, we don't have to go to the extreme of, like, demonising this poor bloke who...
Yeah, we don't have to shit on this nice story.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And if a woman says, this is what I wanted, maybe believe her, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we're going to see a lot more of that, because these stories always tend to make the news. But I think just people... And I like I said, I understand why... But I think people just don't read it properly or listen. Yeah. And it's...
Yeah, you might not want it. I don't want it.
No.
But she probably did. So let's just chill out.
I hate that. If I finished like an ultra or something, like, or my first ultra, and then somebody proposed to me, I'm like, bitch, this is my moment. I would be like that. But I don't assume I don't assume everyone else feels the same way.
Well, I just said earlier, I don't trust myself to make a sandwich decision at the end of an ultra. I don't want to have that and be, I don't know. Right. When are we going to do it? We haven't got time. Who are we going to invite? I've just not got time. No, just hang on. Just wait. Yeah. God.
Everyone just needs to calm down. Anyway, Stuart, what have you got coming up next?
Well, I think this is the reason why I could never have a coach, because you know how I'm in marathon training now, and in 4 weeks I'm doing a marathon. Well, next week I'm doing 800 and 1500 on the track, and maybe the shot put if my ribs feel okay. And then 2 days later I'm doing a 7-mile trail run race. So, you know, I think it's for those kind of reasons. And then the week after I'm doing like a country lane 10k, which is like your classic summer racing bumpy, lumpy lane. So this is the reason I could never have a coach, because they would tell me to shut the fuck up and stop doing these stupid races.
Yeah.
This trail race is the Rabbit Run, and you're doing that as well.
This is my first time doing it.
I'm genuinely delighted about that. It's such a good race. It's one of those races I will do every year if I can, and I'm really glad, because I'm sure you will enjoy it, because it's just got everything. It's got, you know, a bit of grass, some fields, some sand. You go through rivers, all kinds of stuff on there. It's just really good fun race.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I thought Jen was supposed to be doing it too, so I was hoping I'd be doing it with Jen, but she might not be. I think Jen is injured at the moment, so yeah.
There's a story there. We need to get that out.
There is a story, but that is Jen's story to tell in her own good time, if she chooses to tell it. So.
There's always something. If you've enjoyed this bullshit, you can visit runningisbs.com. You can see the show notes and the links from this episode and the whole back catalogue, as well as links to our Patreon, our merch store, and our social medias. Bye.